Life Check Yourself with April Davis. How to stop checklist love and start real connection. Ladies, for all of you who are longing for me to be talking about dating again, well, today is your lucky day. I have April Davis here. She is with LUMA Luxury Matchmaking. She began LUMA when she realized she needed to take her skill of intuition and understanding people to the next level. She has always been a hard worker. She's a small town girl with big city dreams. She has her MBA. She worked her way up to the top of a Fortune 500 company. She pursued modeling on the side, but there was one thing she knew more than anything, and it was how to help people find love, and not just the butterflies and hearts type of love, but real long-lasting, sustainable marriage and partnership. She also happens to be married to a divorce attorney, which gives her a unique insight to know what's going to last. And I'm super excited to chat with you, April.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a crazy time to date. That is for sure. But when I think back about my 16 years in this industry, I feel like it's always been, in the eyes of the single person, challenging to date. And I think that the problems or the symptoms just change, but the root cause is sort of the same. So let's just get started with, like looking at the kind of basic stuff. I'm dying to know, like, just right out of the gate, how does being married to your husband, who is, immersed in the world of divorce, how does it help you think differently about compatibility and what makes love last? Because I think that's a pretty unique angle that you have.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind are values, and values are something that it's core to who you are. And when people are in the dating world, they often think, oh, I want somebody that that's attractive, that's hot, that's fun, all this, the spark, the chemistry. And that's not what's sustainable in a relationship. I see people that divorce and the reason why they divorce are based on values that they saw up front, but they chose to ignore. You know how they say that you can't see red flags with rose-colored goggles.
Right.
Well, that's exactly what ends up happening. So my husband and I both, we meet with a lot of people, and, people that we'd come across are getting divorced, or they were divorced because of religion. And it's funny, you would think they would have filtered that out up front, but they didn't think it was that big of a deal back when they were dating, because maybe they had great chemistry or spark or attraction and everything. And, or like one wants kids and one doesn't. And obviously that's going to be a huge issue when you get down the road and are in a marriage.
Yeah, I am shocked how many people are dating without having a very clear understanding for themselves of what exactly they're looking for in terms of values. Because most people are just saying things like what you said, like they're compatible, meaning they have fun together, right, or, they have the same things. They have the same things in common. So when you think about the values that are the most important, do you think that some people are being not picky enough, or do you think they're being overly picky? I mean, because if they're looking at characteristics versus values, like, it can get really confusing. So what do you notice when you're working with people?
We work with people that have very high standards for themselves and therefore for the person that they're going to be with. A lot of them have tried the online dating and apps and didn't like it. It wasn't successful. A lot of them just don't have the time or energy or desire to put themselves out there online because maybe they own a business or they have a high profile. We work with people that are very successful and they don't want their picture showing up on an app somewhere. And I mean, quite frankly, the apps are only good for about 10% of the population. So if you're an attractive guy, you're going to be able to clean house on
Right.
the apps. You can get 90% of the women, and meanwhile, same thing with the women. The women will get hundreds of men that are reaching out to them if they're an attractive woman. So it's not for everybody. They're just not everybody's going to have luck. I've read things about people that have swiped. A guy that swiped like 2,000 times in order to get one date. And so I think that can be really challenging for people.
Yeah, and frustrating for sure.
Right.
And I think that really shows why, if you are going to be someone who is going to give a go to online dating, that you actually do have to present yourself in the best way possible. In the old days of like the bathroom selfie mirror thing, and like I see women all the time with the like photos of themselves doing all these sports, and they're like a dot this big with a helmet and glasses on, and you're like,
right.
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, so let's talk about like luxury matchmaking, and I think people might have some misunderstandings about what that means. Like, what does it mean really beyond just like the fancy kind of marketing? What does it really mean to find a good matchmaker? Because I think there are good ones and there are less good ones.
There's McDonald's matchmakers. That's what I like to call them. So we work with our clients. We sit down, we do a personality assessment. We go through the mini life bio. So we understand, who they've dated in the past, what's worked for them, what hasn't, see photos of their exes. And then, so it's providing a really bespoke type of an experience through dating. So essentially we're an extension of them, and then we vet people on their behalf. So we're going on those first dates for them so they don't have to waste their time. And we see people what they really look like, not just their doctored photos.
Right.
And we also get a sense for their personality and their vibe. And I think that is the key for a matchmaker, because, for example, one of our most recent success stories, a couple that just got engaged, I met with them after they had got engaged by one of our matchmakers on our team had introduced them. And I knew right away why she introduced them. I could just tell like they were each other's vibe. Like they were just on the same page. And you can't get that from reading a profile. You just, and you can't even, or looking at somebody's picture or something. It's when I actually was in front of them and talking to them, I could just see like these two were on the same wavelength, and it just made sense. And the best way to describe it is they just vibed. So that's one thing that you just don't know until you meet a person. And I'm glad that they both, took a chance and trusted in the matchmaking process and allowed the matchmaker to introduce them to each other, because it worked out.
Yeah. And that's such a great thing, to be able to vet the person that you're going to be matching them with before. Because I think when I was single, it was sort of like, they'd be like, oh, well, like you're alive, like it was just like,
you have a pulse.
Yeah, you have a pulse.
It's a match.
It's a match. And I think that well-meaning friends do that. I think that, I do know that for some matchmakers, they have a hard time finding great people, right? And so they're just kind of like at the mall being like, hey, are you single? And so I think this idea that you're meeting with them, because it's like, someone asked me once, well, would you go out with any of these guys? And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't recommend someone to you that I don't know. And you're taking that to the next level by making it in person. Well, let me ask you this, because I want to talk about this kind of modern dating dilemma, because I think that apps have created this like, the infinite choice, the buffet mentality, right? Like there's always somebody better. I just want to have a bite, like I'll just go with that guy one time, or I'll just do this. But I think that people seem lonelier and more frustrated and more isolated than ever. I see people out and about. My phone, I'm getting a new phone today. It's coming. But over the last month, my phone battery has been dying. And so I have really not had my phone a lot of the time when I'm out and about, because it's dead. But I was really noticing being out that so many people are just on their phones, right? So what do you think? Yeah. So what do you think is the real issue that underneath all this, that's making it so hard for people to connect and find a person.
So, well, there's a lot.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We could start with the phones and like our addictions to phones and that quick dopamine hit, right? And people are they're distracted. So they feel like they don't need to go out and have a social life in person anymore because they can just open up their phone and, just get sucked in for a whole evening and not have to actually interact with people. And they can get on an app and they can message a bunch of people or swipe on a bunch of people, and they might feel like they are actually interacting and having somewhat of a social life, but they're not really meeting anyone in person, right? And I think, COVID just did a number on our society. It got people out from meeting in person. Although I just read an article that more people are going out and actually meeting. They're turning towards with Halloween coming up and everything, they're going to go to events because they want to meet people in person. But I have heard like clubs and just dancing, going out, bars and stuff. Those are down. Attendance is down like 60%. So people aren't drinking, and so they're not really feeling the need to congregate at their old watering hole or a bar like they used to, and so they're not going out late dancing, partying, whatever, and meeting organically as much as they used to. But we also with apps, you have this paradox of choice. You feel like you have so many options. And it's just like when you go to Home Depot to pick out a paint color, you have 50 shades of gray. So how do you pick just one? You have to narrow it down. So they start to get into this mindset. I call it dating for dismissal. Yes. Because they're looking for ways to get rid of like all the options that are not the one. And they start putting on filters. Maybe it's filters for height, or I don't know how much money somebody makes, or something like that. They want to have some way to be able to narrow it down because they feel like there's so many different options, and it gets frustrating. And people are they're not willing to really commit because they think there's so many other options out there. Right. So why would you settle for somebody? And I think it's also just it's part of our society. We are constantly looking for the next best thing. It's kind of just our culture, and we're trying to constantly move up. Especially women are they want to date up, and so maybe they're looking for somebody that is, whatever it is that's important to them is more or better or greater than who they're with. And men are generally, they're looking for somebody that's hotter. Maybe it's younger, and these are just generalizations, and don't hate me. I'm just the messenger. This is what we see, and I'm not the first person to say this either. But yeah, it's just the way I think it's a lot of what our culture is. And then we also have this immediate gratification type of society where we can just order up whatever we want online. I go on Amazon, it's here the next day. And if I want it in red or if I want it in blue, I can get what I want. And so people are thinking that they shouldn't have to settle because they can get what they want if they keep working hard towards it.
Yeah. Oh my God. When you were talking about all those things, I was thinking of, I had a client and she ultimately decided to be a single mom. And I talked to her while she was going through this process of like selecting the sperm donor. And she literally had like thousands of choices of sperm, right? And she said, I can literally select any man.
Pretty much.
Right? And she said, none of them are perfect. And she goes, I never really realized before like that I was actually looking for this perfect person. Yeah. And now I'm actually looking at like genetics, DNA, and there's thousands, and I can literally pay for whatever one I want. Right. Mm-hmm. And there is not one that is perfect. It's like the perfect house, the perfect place to live. Right. And so there's this illusion kind of underneath everything that you said, where we're searching for this perfect thing that we think is going to solve all of our problems.
Yeah, we all want the Mr. Gray, right? The billionaire that's mysterious and attractive. And
and he's also totally available and comes to the kids' soccer games and hangs out with you on the weekend and is obsessed with you. Right. Yeah, it's so true.
And then another layer of confusion and just difficulty around dating is somebody might be willing to have sex with a person for a night or maybe even multiple times, but they're not necessarily willing to enter into a fully committed relationship with that person. And people get confused by that. So they think, well, I hooked up with so and so, so I should be able to date somebody else like that, or I should be with somebody that's like that, because this is now my standard, because they were good enough for a one night stand, but we know they may not be good enough for a truly long-term relationship. And that's hard for people to comprehend.
That's amazing. So when you think, so I'm going to add another like little wrench in this for you as the matchmaker. And then you've got these like giant shifts in like gender norms and expectations and what women expect and what men expect. Like, what do you see as the biggest shift in how like gender role confusion has
Yeah.
also impacted the selection
Right.
process?
Well, as women are making more and more money, they are expecting more and more. They want a guy that makes probably more than they do a lot of times. So that threshold goes higher and higher, and the amount of men available is smaller and smaller. Meanwhile, the men don't care how much money she makes. I've never had a man that said, oh, I want somebody that has this kind of resume. She needs to make this much money. They don't care. They are looking to be typically the guys that are very successful, and the alpha males. They're going to be providers. They don't care that, what she is bringing to the table in terms of financially. They want somebody that is going to be nurturing and just, that complement to them, not another alpha that's going to compete and fight with them. They might respect her, but they don't necessarily want to be with her long term, and or even be necessarily attracted to that kind of personality type. And I think that's really challenging for women to understand, because they think like what is attractive to them should be also attracted to the opposite sex. So the guy, just because they see a guy that is really successful and has a great resume and everything, that they see that, well, if I come to the table with that, then he should be attracted to that. But that's not necessarily the case, right? And it's just making it really difficult for women, because they also want a guy that is, well versed in like emotions and can talk about his emotions.
Emotional intelligence, yes.
Yeah. So they want a guy that is alpha and able to make, is really successful and, can make decisions and makes good money. But they want this guy that is, is really in touch with his emotions and everything else. So it's very much a conundrum and really challenging, if not impossible. It is impossible. There's no perfect person.
Right. There is no perfect person. So you obviously have some success, right? And you work with these people that bring all of these limiting thoughts and beliefs and expectations into the scene. What are the patterns you notice between the men and women who are actually ready for love and find it versus those who think they're ready?
Mm-hmm. The first thing that comes to mind is when somebody comes to us with this laundry list of criteria that they need. And of course, people are always like, oh, I'm open. And they think they're open-minded,
right?
But they really aren't. And
they're definitely not.
Yeah. And it really becomes apparent, especially after the first introduction that we make for them, because they come back with their list of, everything that's wrong with the person and what they need differently the next introduction. And so those people are never successful. And if they have a big list of all the things that they think they need in order to fall in love, then I think a lot of times they may even be just setting their standards so high because they don't want to risk falling in love with somebody. They don't want to put themselves out there because they're really, at the end of the day, they're scared, right? Or they think that, I was just saying that they have these high standards that they think that if a person just reaches those standards and, matches everything, then they'll be able to fall in love. But I've never seen that happen, where we could set somebody up with somebody that, just hits all the nails on the head. And that doesn't mean that it's going to work out. I've been surprised both ways.
Right.
Where, I remember meeting with a lady that I left and I called the guy that I knew I was going to introduce to her, because I'm like, he'd be great for her. And they didn't like each other. Big surprise, right? But what's funny is she ended up dating like several of the other men that I introduced. She's still with one of them that I have introduced her to since then. So it's just funny, like, people, either they have a really loving mindset and an open heart, open mind, or they don't. They're closed off and they think that, well, if I just find the perfect person, then I'll be able to fall in love. And they won't, because they're not there. They're not really ready.
So let me ask you about this, because this is such a issue I hear women struggling with. So they're like, okay, April, are you just telling me to settle? Because I've had clients who are like, he didn't do this and he talked about his mother and he did this and he, and he didn't call me back in 2 days and he, and so.
Okay. So I would say let's break it down and figure out what are really true, what are values, right? Somebody that is what's important to a sustainable relationship. So somebody that's responsible, that does call you back, that follows through, those are character traits of something that really is going to matter.
Yeah.
Now, a guy that talks about his mother, is it really that big of a red flag? Is that terrible? I mean, I would think that would actually could be a positive thing. Somebody
Right.
that actually cares about and respects his mom. So and people can choose to look at things and however they wish. If you're going to look for negative things, you're going to find it. But if you want to twist things around, so they can twist things around and do their mental gymnastics and focus on the negative, or they can find the positive. I would say the guy that maybe he isn't as responsive. You don't know. Like you had just met him. You have not made that. You're not in any position in his life. You're not in any priority.
Yeah.
So you haven't earned that place yet. Now you can. He's trainable. You can earn it. You can still get there and develop that. I mean, a lot of guys are open to feedback, especially when you're in a monotonous relationship. They're
Yeah.
going to want to make you happy, so they will change. So those are not necessarily character flaws. It's just you just haven't earned that position yet for him to make you a priority.
I was joking with my husband on Valentine's Day because he is British,
Oh,
and he also is not like he doesn't get Hallmark holidays, and I'm like all about that shit. Anyway, and so last Valentine's Day,
Valentine.
he got me. He's really cute. He saw an Instagram ad, and they make a necklace out of the map location, the grid location of where you met.
Oh, sweet.
Isn't that cute?
Sweet.
Okay. So I
Yeah,
opened
that's
it
really
up
sweet.
and like the first thing I said was like, goddamn, 16 years of training totally paid off.
Right, right.
Right.
Yes.
But I
So
could see like on the very first Valentine's Day we had together, I made like a scrapbook and I did all this stuff. And, he got me a card and it said like, it's been fun, getting to know you, Jeremy. And I was literally like, but I could see people would be like, he's out, like he's not romantic, he doesn't appreciate me. And so I think having had two marriages, my first one ended after 7 years and 17 years, and I've been with my husband for 16 years. I'm here to tell y'all, there is no perfect person. And you
hmm
just have to decide, does this person have those core values that
hmm
make them able to work through the challenging parts? Because,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, relationships are going to get boring. It's going to get slow down. You're not going to have, the butterflies effect, years into the relationship. So you have to, think about the long term and what do you want? What's important to you? I just recently heard this woman talking about how she was in the hospital and, she just couldn't think straight, but her husband took care of things and he was her brain essentially. Like made all the decisions and she could just, focus on trying to get better. And I think about that all the time is you want a real partner. You want somebody that is going to take care of you if you're sick, is going to care about you. Like if you gain 50 pounds because you have some kind of health problem, is he going to love you through that? Is he going to take care of you? Those kinds of things. But that's ultimately what matters. So
absolutely.
in your question about like should you settle, I think it's more about getting your priorities right and figuring
Yeah.
out what really matters. Like does it really matter that he makes 500K a year? You do well, you make enough money for yourself, you've done great, and it's wonderful that you're at that position financially. Do you really need a man to take care of you if you're making $500,000 a year for yourself? No. You don't. If you did,
You
you would.
don't. And
Yeah,
people are like, what are other people going to think if I date the teacher? And so let me
I'm
ask
sure
you.
he's
So,
interesting. I'm sure
right,
he's fun.
exactly.
Like, I'm sure you have, yeah, I think there's a lot of positive things that you can find in anyone, or you can find the negatives. So
So,
it's,
so April, people come to you. I know that people pay a boatload of money for matchmaking, right? And you've got the client who's like, nope, 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 nope. How do you help clients get out of their own way?
ultimately at the end of the day, they have to want to. but we try our best in order to help them. And so we have date coaches on staff, and we also partner with external ones that we will send our clients to in order to talk through things. And we have that all the history of their past dating history, so we can identify any
Patterns.
trends, yes, patterns, and that can help them to see it. But at the end of the day, like I said, they have to want it to. They have to be open. They have to want to change. They have to be seeking that change in themselves and be open to another perspective.
Yeah, because I've been saying for, 16 years, you're the common denominator in all your failed relationships, right? And if
Hmm.
it's not the app's fault, and it's not April's fault, and it's not men's
The
fault,
whole
like,
world,
right?
all men or
The
all
all
women's fault,
men, the
right?
world,
Yeah,
the
right,
economy, the government, the what you name it, right?
right.
And I can think of I had a client once who dated this guy, and she kind of liked him, but he lived far away, not the ideal area code, zip code vibes. She went out on this like third date with the guy, and she was like, you know, it was just his shoes. She was like, I just got like the ick, and I was like, what?
You can change his
Oh
shoes.
my god! So yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I
How
was
old was
like,
she? I want to know, how old was
oh,
she?
she was almost 50.
Yeah, it
Yeah, right.
doesn't it
And
doesn't go right.
so
You think you'd expect it from a 20-year-old, but not.
no. And so and this is why I think whether you hire a dating coach or a matchmaker who has both, whatever it is, I literally was like, what the fuck? Right. Like, and
I
she's
know.
married to that guy now.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah.
good. You got her to
Because
get
she
over
got
it.
out of her way. I have another client.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't know. It's really weird. This guy, like, he lives with his mom, like,
Mhm.
or his parents, but like he has this important job and he's kind of closed off. Anyway, and she was about ready to end it. And I was like, why don't you tell him you like him? And on paper, it's so good, but you're feeling lack of connection. She said that, and he ended up going, actually, I've been really embarrassed, but my mom is sick, and my dad actually isn't well too. And I moved back home to like be a caregiver. And
Mhm.
it's embarrassing, but also like, this is the most important thing to me. And I
Right.
just felt awkward about it. And so
Mhm.
I've just figured you wouldn't want to pursue it. She's married to him. They have like 3
Right.
kids. So you need somebody who's going to show you, like your blind spots. Do
Mhm.
you have a story of like a client like finding love like in the unexpected way? Maybe it wasn't their type, or you had to kind of like show them there was a possibility they couldn't see.
Yeah, I mean, there's a we all the day, all the time, every day. We are sharing amongst the team. We share all of our stories about how people that have been closed off and then they trust the process. One thing that I always think about is, if you were such a great matchmaker, you wouldn't be coming to a matchmaker. So you don't know, you're not a matchmaker. Like, you don't know exactly what you need, and you think like you have this idea, this list. And I know there's people out there that preach, oh, just write it down what you want, and then you can manifest it. Well, okay, have fun with good luck with that. But I mean, I think it's important to focus on the really the core character traits and values. But, one story that comes to mind is this gentleman that he was dead set. He needed like a Latin woman. He really
Yes.
wanted a Latin woman. And then we got down into it, and I figured out that it wasn't necessarily that he wanted, like, he didn't just need that look or somebody that spoke Spanish or something like that. It was like the outgoing personality type that he really liked and was attracted to, or and the nurturing kind of person that he wants. So it wasn't necessarily that she had to be Latin. It was just like what that represented in his head. So we were able to get him to meet some other ladies that were not necessarily Latin, and he's engaged to one of them,
Oh
one of
my
the ladies
God.
that we
I love
introduced to.
that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, let me ask you this. So from your vantage point, and you have your husband and all the experience with divorce. If you look at over all your clients that have stayed together, what do you think are the top 3 predictors that a relationship like can last?
Yeah, the number one, of course, is what we've talked about multiple times, is aligned values.
Yeah.
And but also, I think how people argue I've heard people brag that, oh, we've never had an argument. I'm like, that's a red flag. That's concerning, because it just shows me that you are not able to either speak about what might be bothering you, or you're too afraid to bring it up. You don't want to, shake things up or anything. And so I think it's, if how you argue, do you fight fair? I think
Right.
that's really important, with a couple. And then it's just, I think it's ultimately comes down to people's value and focus on the relationship and commitment to the relationship. So I always think of the relationship as like the third. It's like the Holy Trinity. You have his
Right.
view, her view, and then the relationship view. But I
Right.
think that it's, because you're not always going to like each other. You're not always going to feel like you're in love with each other. You're going to be mad at each other. But if you can be outside of that and just focus on being committed to the relationship, at the end of the day, you're going to make choices and you're going to protect that relationship and do whatever it takes to make it be successful.
I
So
love that. I just read an essay. Um, I think it might have been in the New York Times. I can't remember recently. Someone wrote about being in her 50s and getting divorced and, all the things that weren't great in her relationship and her dating experience. And so she was kind of saying, like, it's not that I regret getting the divorce, but what I realized is like this fantasy that I have that there's this other perfect person is
mhm.
not true.
Oh, I know.
And that, and that normal marital hatred, as one of my therapist friends calls it, is in fact normal marital hatred.
Mhm.
And that is, how do you work through that? And I think that commitment is a really important piece. Um,
Mhm. And
so
it's hard.
awesome.
I think it's extremely hard, and I mean, people do get this idea that there's some perfect person out there because they see all these profiles online or on Instagram, and I can tell you, like, she doesn't even look like how she represents herself online. And yeah, we keep saying it. There is no perfect person, so you just
It's
have to,
true. I
yeah,
was
you have
just
to
watching. Are
compromise.
you watching that the little sitcom? It's Nobody Wants This.
No,
Oh
I
my
haven't
God,
seen.
it's so April. It's
Okay,
so cute. Oh my God. It's like
okay,
all
I have a
about love and
3-year-old,
relationships.
so I don't get to watch TV anymore.
Okay, it's really
So.
cute. But anyway, so they go to this baby naming for this couple, the couple
Yeah.
that is the, main people in the show. And the girl, the woman, the wife is an influencer, and she's like, here's me in my house. And they go to this beautiful party in the beautiful house, the beautiful baby, and they're taking the photos. And then like a week later they see the husband at the park, and they're like, "Oh, how are you doing with the new baby?" And he was like, yeah, we broke up. It was all fake. Like it was all fake. And I think that's a really good point you bring up, is that people, not that everyone else is who's on Instagram or all these couples that you think, oh, well, why is it happening for them? Why is it
Hmm.
happening for them? It's so easy. You don't know. You don't know what's
Hmm.
going on inside their world.
Right. And I feel like
And
the people that are putting their relationship out there online the most, I'll see them like a couple months later with somebody new. And so
I
it's like
know. I'm so working on that,
usually the
April.
fakest.
I'm like, why am I so triggered by these people talking about their relationship on Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah, it's scary.
I
It's
know.
scary.
I don't know. I'm just like, okay, it's a me problem. I'm not going to judge. I'm trying not to judge and just figure out why it bothers me so much. But I'm glad I have someone alongside with me who's
Yeah,
doing
it's
that.
there's probably something in your gut that's telling you that it's not right.
It's
There's
just
something
weird.
wrong.
It's
Yeah.
just weird to
Yeah.
me. And if you do that and you're a listener, bless. You keep doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
well, there's braggadocious, and then there's just, sharing what's going on in your life, right? And maybe you're probably sensing something's off
Yeah,
there.
totally. Okay, last question. The name of the show is Life Check Yourself. What do you think checking yourself means in the context of love?
Well, I think when you mentioned, when it's something okay, for me, the biggest red flag in a person is when they say, oh, there's, all men or all women, or you start making these blanket statements about other people. Then that's usually, to me, signaling that you're the problem, right? You are the common denominator in what is going on, because when people are having this negative veil put over all the opposite sex or whatever it is, and this group of people, then you're being negative, you're being closed off, you're being you are ultimately you're the problem. So
I
I think
know.
that's the best way you can check yourself, is when you start like just making these complaining about everyone else. And like, yeah, it's time to probably start writing in your gratitude journal and
Yes.
or just researching that, figuring it out. Like I always tell people, whatever you're struggling with, research it, dig into that and figure out what at the core, what is causing you to get this way, and what can you do about it to get out of it. Because I see people that are stuck for years and they just continue to bitch about women or whatever it is, and they're just gonna it's self-perpetuating.
Okay, my last question, really. So for anyone who's listening who's just thinking, oh, maybe I should try matchmaking, what would you want them to know about working with someone like you?
So we really want people who are willing to trust in the process and trust in a matchmaker, that and listen to that other perspective. We want people that really want a bonding relationship. They're not just looking for, checking the boxes. And if you're coming here and or going to any matchmaker and they tell you, oh yeah, we got 10 of those guys, we can just pull one off the shelf for you. They're lying to you.
Right.
Okay. So if you're going to a matchmaker, be ready to compromise on what you think you need. Be open to an expert's perspective, because that's what they are. It's not just, you're not buying a person. This is not build a boyfriend. I always say we're not manufacturing men or women,
Right. You
for
don't
that
have the
matter.
keys to that island where all the good men are.
Yeah. And while we do work with people that are celebrities and billionaires and all that, that doesn't mean that they're going to want to meet you. So we can't force anybody to go out with anyone. We can't force anybody to fall in love with anyone. So you have to be open to really what is truly what you want. And that's a relationship, a bonding type of connection. And, committed to getting that, not necessarily just committed to getting somebody that's 6'2" and has his hair, or she looks like Scarlett Johansson, that kind of thing is what
Bless
we
those
want to stay
men. Bless them all.
with.
That is so funny. Well, I really appreciate you. I feel like this was, the undercover inside scoop of, the fantasy. Oh, if I throw enough money at my problem, it will get solved.
Yeah. I wish
Because
it was that easy.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. If it were that easy. Ladies, if you want to find out more about how to work with April and Luma, you can find all of the links to their LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things in our show notes. And you can also go to lumasearch.com and find out more about how you can dip your toe into professional matchmaking as one of your diversified options in your dating portfolio. Because I think you need to get out, leave your house, work on yourself, right?
Now
There's
you're
not
getting
there,
crazy. You're
right?
asking too much money.
Yeah, it's
Leave
like
your
you
house.
wouldn't put all your money into one stock, would you? Right. So I think that considering matchmaking and all of the different options and things that you all do is so, so helpful. So thank you so much for being so truthful and honest and calling the shots like you see it from all your experience, April.
Yeah, I don't know any other way. So thank you.
and that's
Thank you for
and
having
that's
me.
why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Ladies, so okay, so here's your assignment. The show's called Life Check Yourself. Rewind it. Just to make a little assessment, a little audit of yourself. And maybe you have some of these beliefs or thoughts, or maybe you are the common denominator. Maybe you do need someone to call you out or show you your blind spots. If you do, there's no shame. There is no shame. Get the help you need so that you can have the life and the love that you want on your own terms. Remember, life check yourself always and in all ways. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibattista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Battista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.